Father in heaven, be with us throughout this midday power surge, is our prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Greetings, salutations to Safe to Serve International and first time viewers. Welcome to this midday power surge. This is your spiritual oasis on this pilgrim journey. I'm your host, Andrew Henriquez, on this Wednesday, April 26th. Welcome one, welcome all to this midday power surge. Well, friends, by God's grace, we are here, alive and kicking. And we're here to spend a few more moments in God's presence, analyzing these current events and how they relate to us as God's people in these last days. All right, friends, as you can see in the lineup, we're going to be addressing the crisis there in Sudan. What's happening in Sudan as it relates to question marks around the next pandemic? Have you heard of polio, cholera, and even measles? We're going to be addressing that, my friends. Well, today, as we begin, I want to point your attention. Thank you all for joining in. It's a blessing to see you all here, ready to receive a word from the Lord. All right, friends, let's get into it here. I want to begin by pointing your attention to Matthew chapter 24. And the purpose is, we have heard many times of various pestilences, and we are going to be addressing polio, cholera, measles. All right? But this crisis is connected to wars, just as the Bible says in Matthew 24. The inquiry was, what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? That's verse 3. Verse 7 now says, there shall be wars. Nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines, pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. We have seen these events happening as isolated crises. When you see them happening simultaneously, you know we're living in the last days. That's what we're told, my friends. The wars in connection with the pestilences. With that in mind, we shall get right into it. I want to make a quick juxtaposition between a weatherman and a watchman. Brothers and sisters, a meteorologist actually predicts the weather, forecasts the weather. He gives his prediction based on signs, his predictions based on patterns, his predictions based on history. The watchmen on the walls of Zion are actually alerting the people as he sees signs happening, fulfilling end time Bible prophecies. And what does the watchman say? Get ready just in case. If it does not transpire, at least you were ready. But you don't want to be caught off guard. The meteorologist will tell you, listen, walk with your umbrellas, a raincoat, and down the road, several hours thereafter, there's no rain. But at least you had it, just in case. Well, friends, watch this right here. Those of you in Canada, I'll see you shortly, by God's grace, heading north of the border. I'll see you shortly. Let's get right into this, my friends. There it is. There it is. Matthew chapter 16. And verse number 13. What are we told, my friends? We should discern the signs of the times, or else we're hypocrites. Luke chapter 12, verse 54 through verse 56. We must discern the signs of the times, or else we are what? We are hypocrites. What's breaking? The breaking news right now. Remember, I take breaking news, current events, trending topics, and give you not the nitty gritty per se of those headlines, but the spiritual application. What would the Lord have us to focus on? Watch this, my friends. There it is, breaking. April 26th, HWO warns of biological risk after Sudan fighters seize lab. All right, friends, are we together? Why? There's war going on. Huge biological risk as Sudan fighters seize disease laboratory. Don't you forget that, my friends. Next, there it is, friends. All right, Sudan fighting brings huge biological risk as lab holding samples of deadly diseases occupied. It says, my friends, fighters have occupied a national public laboratory in Sudan, holding samples of diseases including polio and measles, creating an extremely dangerous situation. The fighters kicked out all the technicians from the lab, which is completely under the control of one of the fighting parties as a military base. There is a huge biological risk associated with the occupation of the Central Public Health Laboratories. Beloved, is this something or nothing? That's my question. Is this something or is it nothing? Take a listen. A few moments.
In addition to the casualties, I have received a phone call yesterday, unconfirmed this day, from the head of the Central Public Health Lab. It is occupied by one of the fighting parties, and they kicked out all the technicians from the lab. So now it is completely under the control of one of the fighting parties as a military base. And that is extremely dangerous because we have polio isolates in the lab, we have measles isolates on the lab, we have cholera isolates in the lab. So there is a huge biological risk associated with the occupation of the Central Public Health Lab in Khartoum by one of the fighting parties. I spoke about casualties, but really psychological trauma and mental health is extremely important. And we should not forget the public health risk associated with this fighting, because no water supply, no electricity, so definitely there is a high risk of cholera, and Khartoum itself was suffering or was witnessing the first ever dengue outbreak. Malaria is high in all the states of Sudan. Immunization now is zero, and we have outbreaks of measles in multiple states. So with the cessation of all response activities, the public health events and outbreaks which may not be reported will be also very high. So my expectation, unfortunately...
All right, friends, enough. Do you realize, besides the diseases that are in the laboratories, the polio, the measles, he's also referring to other diseases in the land of Sudan, and how the vaccination, the immunization is zero, low, 0%. And the fighting is going to increase the risk, not only of those in Sudan, but the surrounding countries in Africa. And now there is a huge migration going on. In other words, they're sowing the seeds for the next pandemic. Something or nothing? It's my question. Now, these individuals will now take these diseases and carry them to their various places of destination. My friends, is the Hegelian dialectic at work. Listen to this, my friends.
Mr. Secretary, if I could just read one other thing to you that crossed the wires this morning that caught our attention. This is a warning from Dr. Nima Saeed Abid. She's Sudan's WHO representative, and she said, here is a main concern. No accessibility to the lab technicians to go to the lab and safely contain the biological material and substances available. She's saying there is a high biohazard risk, and we've been through this. I'm not saying that there's COVID or a leak or anything like that, but that is a huge concern if they can't keep control of that.
It is. I saw that statement earlier today too. This is true in many parts of the world. This global effort to contain, to operate these high security labs in a safe way is something that the world has to take on, and a massive failure of her very organization at the WHO. You know, as for the closure of,
Do you see it, my friends? So again, just for emphasis, what is the WHO, the UN, reporting that are in this laboratory? Notice here, friends, they tell us measles, polio, as well as cholera. My friends, is the WHO, the UN, the WEF, POPRI, are they now sowing the seeds for the next pandemic? Remember, listen to me, remember, during the C-19 pandemic, the height of it, they told us it was simply a lab outbreak, right? Okay. That brought on the pandemic. March 2020, 3/11, 3/11, like 9/11, 3/11. And here is all of a sudden fighters taking over a laboratory with various diseases. Are you telling me that Sudan is filled with all these laboratories in Sudan? Out of all the buildings, fighters could hijack, seize, take over. They chose a laboratory? Come on, friends. I'm so glad that Safe to Serve International, those of you who are live with me now, and those of you hereafter, are intelligent people. You can discern when they're talking nonsense. Makes no sense whatsoever. Out of all the buildings, a laboratory. And friends, I'm going to share with you the very diseases in this laboratory are the very ones several months ago CDC, WHO, UNICEF, UN are all saying that we have a shortage of inoculations against polio, against measles, and all of a sudden, the fighters hijacked this laboratory with said diseases? Come on, friends. Come on now. Come on. Something or nothing. Something or nothing. You watch this, my friends. There it is. Will Sudan's violence cause a wave of refugees? Are they now sowing the seeds? Displacement, migration, refugees. Watch this, my friends. The ex-CDC chief warns of coming great pandemic. Imagine, worse than C-19. Friends, imagine, think about this. Pestilence 19 crippled the whole world, and that was one. Imagine if we have multiple simultaneously. And may I add, it's coming. It's coming. Watch this, friends. It's coming. Listen.
You know, the reality is the U.S. government funded this work. NIH funded it, USAID funded it, the State Department funded it, and the DoD funded it. So the United States funded the research, and the scientific community, largely in America and Europe, fostered the gain-of-function research, which was the basis for which this virus came.
All right. Clip 2. Listen, clip 2. Who's funding this? The very same organizations that claim to care for our health and well-being are the very same organizations, institutions who are funding these diseases in laboratories and then say an outbreak, lab leak. Or thirdly, all of a sudden now, fighters hijacking a lab with these diseases.
This virus came. Tony's right that prior to gain-of-function research, the only way new pathogens came in to the human species was spillover. But now, in the presence of gain-of-function research, where you can take a pathogen into a laboratory and change it.
They can change these viruses and make them super viruses? Beloved, I believe the stage is being set. Watch this. Listen. We are told in the book Great Controversy, listen attentively, my friends, listen attentively, that Satan works for the elements also to garner his harvest of unprepared souls. He has studied the secrets of the laboratories of nature. Yes, when he was suffered, allowed to afflict Job, how quickly flocks, herds, servants, houses, children were swept away. One trouble succeeding another as in a moment. I'm going to come back to that statement, my friends. For the Bible tells us the experience of Job is an end-time experience. It's going to be repeated. Clip 3.
Where you can take a pathogen into a laboratory and change it, then no longer does the species barrier really define the event in humans. It can actually come. And I do believe the next pandemic, and we're going to have another pandemic, and I think it's going to be the great pandemic. I consider COVID a minor pandemic. The great.
What could be worse than the pestilence 19? And not just the pestilence 19, but the draconian policies that were associated with it. Imagine what's coming next. We are told, my friends, while they appear to be great benefactors, great physicians, great philanthropists, they are the ones who are bringing the disease and disaster. Don't you forget that. Until populous cities are reduced to ruin and desolation, even now the devil and his imps are at work, my friends. And then will come a false day of worship. The very ones who claim we want to take care of your maladies are the same ones who are creating the maladies and talking about lab leaks to distribute, disperse, contaminate the populace. Listen to this congressman from Georgia.
This could be a worldwide reason for war. And it's also another reason for government to increase their control. There is always a reason for people to turn to the government to solve the problems that the government created.
What now? Yeah. So it's the Hegelian dialectic. They create the crisis to get their diabolical agenda accomplished. That is, people looking to man, government to solve their ills, looking to the government and become government paupers. That's it, my friends. What context he made that statement? In what context? Pestilences? You mean a food crisis?
This is concerning for many reasons. If we thought that the pandemic was a reason for government to overreach, if we thought that that was going to be a crisis, imagine what it would be like if we ran out of food, if we have food shortages. When you realize that we had people panicking over toilet paper, imagine what they'll do when they panic when our cupboards are bare.
And not only when cupboards are bare and can't find paper to wipe their rump and their rear, we're told what's going to happen when people become sick, severely ill, and begin to drop like flies, the colloquial saying. And we're told from Mr. Antichrist, expect greater omens. You know why they can say that? Because they're the ones who create the crises that they claim that they are predicting. Yes, friends. Yes. Don't believe them. Listen to this.
It's going to be the great pandemic. I consider COVID a minor pandemic. The great pandemic is going to come, and normally it would come from spillover. It's going to be bird flu that learns how to transmit to humans and then go human to human. But I think the species barriers are very real, but it's much more probable that it will happen because of gain-of-function research in a laboratory and then escape, and then we're going to have a pandemic with flu, which will be much more brutal to the world than COVID was.
It's going to be in the laboratory. It's going to escape from the laboratory. Yes, and then it's going to be what? Much more brutal. We are told, my friends, it's going to be such great disease and disaster until populous cities are reduced to ruin and desolation. Brothers and sisters, when I read these statements, I try to make sure I analyze every word, every phrase by God's grace until populous cities are reduced to ruin and desolation. What are the 10 most populous cities in America? Look at them, my friends. Look at them. New York, all the way down to San Jose. Imagine LA, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, Philadelphia, San Antonio, San Diego, Dallas, Texas, San Jose, California. Imagine that, my friends, until populous cities are reduced to ruin and desolation. Watch this, my friends. And what is going to be the actual solution? It's right there in the prophecy. In the spirit of prophecy, a new and more exalted system of religious faith. But at the same time, Satan and his human agents work as destroyers of false system of worship. That's what the Pope said, my friends. That's what he said. Sunday to combat calamities, Sunday to care for the poor. Man of Sin said the pestilence 19 was simply a response to climate nature rebelling against the abuses man has put on nature. What are we told, my friends? There's going to be more and more diseases and disasters, and that they are going to become more and more frequent. Again, something or nothing. Something or nothing. Don't be surprised if something breaks out and then they say, oh, our hands are clean. It was the fighters who occupied the lab in Sudan, and then the migrants took the disease because they were infected unknowingly, and now everybody is now infected. Now we must shut down the borders again. Lock down Africa, lock down Europe, lock down Asia, lock down Australia. They're waiting. Lock down South and North America, lock down the islands of the sea, lock down 2.0. By the way, 7.0. That's where we're heading, my friends. Something or nothing. I don't know. I'm asking a question.
But it's much more probable that it will happen because of gain-of-function research in a laboratory and then escape, and then we're going to have a pandemic with flu, which will be much more brutal to the world than COVID was.
And then what comes, friends? The tentacles of Mother Beast. Move on from that. Look at this, my friends. Beloved, we cannot make this up. The very same diseases that are in this lab that is now under the control of rebels, they say, hooligans, they say, fighters, are the same diseases that the media, UNICEF, UN, CDC, WHO have been saying we don't have enough inoculations against these diseases. Who is writing the script? Look at this. Look at this, friends. 2022, November 23rd, 2022. Measles vaccinations rate at lowest point. Imagine if there is to be a measles outbreak. Imagine. Imagine that. Nearly 250 250,000 kindergartners in the U.S. are vulnerable to measles due to slide in inoculation rates. Who says that? CDC. When? January 13, 2023. You see how recent that was? And all of a sudden, the labs have been hijacked. Look at this, friends. You remember that popular city? What was one of the popular cities? Top 10. New York City. Headline: silent spread of polio in New York drives CDC to consider additional inoculations for some people. They're coming for our children. Young people, they're coming for the adults. Pause right there. You remember at the first advent of Christ, was there a crisis upon children 2 years and younger? And as it was at the first advent, so it's going to be just before the second advent of Christ. Get back to this headline again. Polio inoculation rate for 2 years olds is as low as 37% in parts of New York County, where paralysis case was found. What? 2 years old? Come on now, friends. Come on now. What did I just quote? In Matthew chapter 2, in reference, 2 years old and younger, the government said, slay all those male children. Based on prophecy and its application, the points don't have to always line up to the nitty-gritty, minutiae points. No, it's the big picture as it relates to principle. Beloved, do you think it's accidental that during Christ's earthly ministry, there are so many crippled people in the land? Paralytic in the land? How many paralyzed people were there at the first advent of Christ? Hello, wake up. Ring the alarm. Ring the alarm. Tick tock, tick tock, tick. Ring the alarm. Blow the trumpet as it was at the first advent of Christ. Expect as we near the second coming of Jesus, paralysis, diseases that will bring about physical paralysis, mental paralysis. Polio? I thought they said they eradicated polio. Watch this, friends. Headline: New York declares state of emergency. Why would they declare a state of emergency over polio? Why? To boost low inoculation rates. You see what's happening here? Create the crisis. And then they have to take Babylon's panacea, Pharaoh's inoculation. Yes, my friends. The government, the papal poison. Watch this. April 20th, 2023. This article came out before, in the time period rather, of the fighters hijacking the lab in Sudan. Watch the headline. Brussels Times. Measles, polio, and cholera coming back. And listen, they did not mention anything about the lab being hijacked. They said the reason why polio, measles, cholera are returning, coming back, it's because that there was a lockdown. People could not travel, couldn't have their doctors visit. Children could not see their pediatricians during the pestilence 19 lockdown. It's right there, my friends. Preventable diseases like measles, polio, and cholera are spreading in countries, pandemic countries, with high numbers of children who missed their routine immunizations during the pestilence 19 pandemic. UNICEF said that. When the world shut down in 2020, many children were unable to receive their routine immunizations. Health services were disrupted and families were in lockdown, unable to travel. Do you see it, my friends? Watch this. May I ask you a question? How contagious is the measles virus? How contagious? I didn't say chickenpox. I said measles. It says, my friends, watch, measles is one of the world's most deadly diseases and is highly contagious. It is spread in the air, through coughing or sneezing. Its symptoms include, you can read that, my friends. The air, beloved, that's what we read. In Great Controversy, page 589, Satan, his human agents working in the laboratories of nature. We're told, my friends, that they will impart to the air a deadly taint, and thousands perish by the pestilence. Listen to me. In the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, and verse number 2, Satan, we're told, is the prince of the power of the air. And John chapter 10, verse number 10 says, Satan, when he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Viruses in the air. Will there be another draconian mandate for us to wear masks again? You can't sneeze, you can't cough again in public. Stay home. Removing you from your home. You have to receive this prick, or else you will not be accommodated, but treated as pariahs of society. Come on, friends. Something or nothing. Something or nothing. Let me be clear. Watch this, my friends. Look at the countries that are being affected. Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Somalia, Yemen, Nigeria. There is no cure for measles, but treatment can help to relieve symptoms. What about polio? It's right there, my friends. There is no cure for polio, but treatments include portable ventilators and painkillers. Watch this, my friends. It's all there. Polio is highly infectious, disabling, life-threatening disease that attacks unimmunized children. You see, friends, if they could not get you to bring your children to them, to receive their poisons, all in the name of the pandemic, they must continually create more and more frequent until their sinister agenda is accomplished. Watch this. Notice the countries affected here: Yemen, Democratic Republic of Congo, Nigeria, Malawi, Mozambique. Look at the map, my friends. Sudan, center of your screen right there. East Africa. You see it right there, my friends? What nations surround Sudan? You see them? The very same ones in the list. Beloved, I believe right now, don't be surprised if there is an outbreak. Watch this. If not treated right away, cholera is fatal. In fact, cholera can kill people within hours of being untreated. It is spread through contaminated water. My friends, do you see it now? Polio, measles, pause right there. Cholera, pause right there. Do you realize in the time of Jesus, so many people had diseases that were akin to cholera, akin to measles, even leprosy, measles, pox, inflammation, pox. I'm telling you, friends, You need to understand what these things represent. And that's why I believe God is trying to awaken us. It's time for gospel, medical, missionary evangelism. In Matthew chapter 4, verse 18, Christ taught, preached, and healed. Verse number 23 of Matthew chapter 4, the stage is set again. Watch this. So what is their solution? Look at their solution. Lab, hijacked, measles, polio, cholera, etc. UNICEF says that the solution is to issue large-scale catch-up inoculation campaigns. Large scale. And advises countries to repurpose the money left over from the pestilence 19 crisis and channel those monies towards routine immunization activities beginning in countries that have the highest numbers of children who missed out on their inoculations. They said countries. We can also add the major cities, New York, LA, San Jose, California. Name them, my friends. Chicago, they're coming. They're coming. They are coming, my friends. Philadelphia, they are coming. I mean, do I need to list out all these? What is the solution? Medical missionary evangelism. They are bringing back the tentacles of Mother Beast. Coming, my friends. That's why I'm going to say again, the book, Ministry of Healing, is the book for the hour. It's time. Beloved, may I ask you a question right now as I bring this to a close? Do you realize the Bible tells us, as it was in the time of Moses down there in Egypt, just before the Exodus, so it is going to be in the last days. What am I talking about? Are we expecting 7 last plagues in the last days? Yes. There were 10 plagues down there in Egypt before the Exodus. My friends, the first 3 plagues fell on everybody, both Egyptians and Hebrews. What am I saying? These so-called outbreaks will and may and might affect everybody, even faithful Christians. If we're not physically, literally infected, the draconian policies are going to negatively impact our livelihood. We're all going to be affected until the 7 last plagues, when there's going to be a distinction between God's faithful people, not 1 plague. The unrepentant receive those plagues. Here's my second question. If there should be another outbreak more brutal than pestilence 19, along with more draconian policies, are you ready today than you were March 2020? Have you made any progress in the work of preparation now than March of 2020, March of 2021, March of 2022? Are you more ready now than you were then? That's the question. Spiritually, physically, mentally, financially, socially, are you now ready? More ready than you were back then? If not, you're wasting your time. The 5 keys of survival. If not, you're wasting your time. Conversion, country living, food, water, resources on your property, evangelism. Number 5, assisting those who are less fortunate, the bartering system. Are we now more ready today than we were back then? Great questions to ponder, my friends. What if there is going to be another law to remove us from our homes? You can't travel. You remember that, my friends? Church closures, mask mandates, businesses, schools closed, hospitals, nursing homes closed to visitors. Loved one dying without any hope, dying without your presence. No travel on airlines, buses, subways, trains, ships. Stay at home orders. No jab, no job. Are you now prepared today than you were then? My friends, a storm is coming. Do you believe it is the question? A storm is coming. Are we ready? Are we ready? Again, I ask, are we ready? 14-day quarantines. What quarantine would they now set? For measles, polio, and others, cholera, all impacting the nation simultaneously. Are we more ready today than we were yesterday? Government officials knocking on our doors. Track and trace forms we have to fill out. You can buy on this day. You can shop on that day. What if the only day to shop is Saturday? What if now we are forced to go to church on Sunday to pray to God so God can bless America? Are we now more prepared today than we were yesterday, last month, last year? That's the question, my friends. That's the question. A storm is coming, relentless in its fury. Are we prepared to meet it? That's the question. Imagine. And then they tell us, listen, there are no exemption letters that are going to be accepted. You have to go along with the government's policies this time. We don't want to hear or see medical exemptions. No more religious exemption letters. No more. No more. Are we now prepared, more prepared today than we were yesteryear, yestermonth, yesterweek, yesterday? That's the great question. I even make up names and words as I go along, but the point is still here. It's clear. Are we now more prepared today? Beloved, Job's experience. Job had to go through affliction because it was a time of the great controversy. Will we still serve God? Listen, some of us may be literally infected. Others will be impacted by the laws that strip away our freedoms. Either or, either this or that. Will we still serve God? All right. Will we say like Job, naked came I out of my mother's womb. Naked will I return thither. The Lord gave, the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Will we say like Job, though he slay me, yet will I trust him? Do we now have the experience of Job before the crisis in Job chapter 1, verse 1 through verse 6, weeping, crying, praying, fasting, evening, morning, and at noon continually before the crisis? James 5, verse 7 through verse 12, Job's experience represents an end time experience. Beloved, I'll leave you with this. Before you sleep tonight, prayerfully Read the words of Psalm 91, the whole division of Psalm 91, and Psalm 46, the whole division of Psalm 46. A storm is coming. Are we prepared? Friends, send in your prayer requests. Your prayer requests. Gospel vocal brothers will sing the song. The Lord's are a rock, in him we hide, a shelter in the time of storm. Hear me, friends. Listen, a storm is gathering, ready to burst upon the earth. Listen to me. And when God shall bid his angels loose the winds, there will be such a scene of strife as no pen can picture. Imagine that, friends. But a moment of respite has been graciously given us of God, my friends. Every power lent us of heaven is now to be used in the work of implementing the 5 keys of survival. I digress for now. The Lord's our rock, in him we hide.
Thank you for joining us for Midday Power Surge. We will be singing hymn titled, The Lord's Our Rock. We hope you're blessed.
The Lord's our rock, in him we hide, a shelter in the time of storm. Secure whatever may betide, a shelter in the time of storm. Mighty rock in a weary land, cooling shade on the burning sand, faithful guide for the pilgrim band, a shelter in the time of storm. The raging floods may round us beat, a shelter in the time of storm. We find in God a safe retreat, a shelter in the time of storm. Mighty rock in a weary land, cooling shade on the burning sand, faithful guide for the pilgrim band, a shelter in the time of storm. O rock divine, O refuge deep, a shelter in the time of storm. Be thou our helper ever need, a shelter in the time of storm. Mighty rock in a weary land, cooling shade on the burning sand, faithful guide for the pilgrim band, a shelter in the time